So what are you looking forward to in the Hobbit panel tomorrow?
I'm just really excited that we finally got here. That, I mean, we've been shooting for 260 days, and we finally kind of, you know, we're out of that zone, and we're bringing it to the public. So I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Peter again. I'm looking forward to showing the footage. Can't wait to show the footage, because I've spent kind of the most part of 2011, 2012 shooting it, because I was, apart from playing Gollum, I then most of the time spent directing the second unit. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the second unit shots up in there as well. I mean, yeah, and seeing the rest of the cast, seeing Martin Freeman and Richard Armitage and of course Ian McKellen and seeing them engage with all the fans here.
So how did you decide to shoot the second unit? How did that come about?
Well, how did that come about? How did the whole thing? Well, basically, I was actually only going to be coming down to New Zealand to reprise the role of Gollum, and about 4 weeks before we started shooting, I got an email from Peter saying, "Look, Andy," and he's known that I've been heading towards directing for a long time, but he just said, "Look, I know this is probably a long shot and it's very last minute, but will you come down and direct the second unit? And so instead of going down for 2 weeks, will you come down for a year and a half?" So it was I was kind of rolled around on the floor, and Lorraine, my wife, we were kind of looking at each other thinking, "Oh my hair, I've spent half my life in New Zealand now, am I going to go back again?" But I mean, I love the place, I love the people, and I love the crew, and it's pretty much the same crew as when we did Lord of the Rings. I mean, just people have got a bit older and have got children, but apart from that, everyone's sort of pretty much the same. And so of course, I love working with those guys, and it was such an amazing project, and it was an incredible experience.
Peter's obviously putting a lot of trust in you to kind of take care of the second unit. What was the toughest part of that?
The thing is with the second unit on a project like this is that it's not just sort of hand shots or kind of picking up little bits and pieces. It's very much sharing the vision with him and being his eyes and ears. And I think that's why one of the main things he wanted me to do was because the principal cast were going to be shared between main and second unit a lot. He wanted someone who, from an acting point of view, he could trust with performance. So that was key, I think, and entrusting me with that. And then everything that we got to do, which was everything from big 2 months on location shooting aerials and huge sequences and battle sequences and stunts and drama, and it was very, very much a mixture of all things. So it was very comprehensive, very, very challenging. I'd never worked with 3D before. It was it was a big undertaking.
And let's talk a little bit about Gollum. What is different in the prequel from Lord of the Rings?
What is different? Well, it's the origin of basically the journey of the ring, and obviously in the Lord of the Rings we've established Gollum, how Gollum arrives in the Misty Mountains, and how he's killed his cousins Deagle and become craven and possessed by this thing, and there he's lived for 540 years until Bilbo Baggins comes along, and so the passage that is quite it references the book very strongly, but Gollum is at this point the way that we have defined him in this film is along the same lines as he was in Lord of the Rings. So the Smeagol part of his personality, the Smeagol and Gollum parts of the personality are vying equally. He's never talked to anybody for 500 years. So this is like one of the first conversations. When Bilbo arrives, he's very excited because he has literally not talked to anybody. So apart from himself. And so it sort of complicates for Bilbo the premise of the scene is very much him not knowing who to trust, because it seems to be two parts of a personality. So it's a very and the way we shot it was very, very interesting. It was the first thing to be shot on the film.
Oh, really?
And because of the nature of the scene, we shot it like a chamber piece, a chamber theatre piece almost. We shot the whole scene from beginning to end, which is like a 12-13 minute scene, a number of times, which is pretty unusual in film.
I read that the technology used for the motion capture was a little different this time, that the live action was shot kind of at the same time.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when we did Lord of the Rings and we used motion capture then, I mean, it's evolved tremendously over the last 12 years, of course. And since we, in fact, working on Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, that was the first film that was meaningfully shot on location with live-action actors and actors in performance capture suits at the same time. So there's absolutely no disconnect at all. It's all every single beat, every single moment is arrived at between the actors, and that's what's recorded.
So both of the Hobbit films were shot at the same time. That's why the shoot was so long. What is it like working on a movie for that long of a time period? I mean, it was over a year.
Well, I kind of got used to it now. I mean, it's a kind of prerequisite of working with Peter Jackson is that you expect the shoot days to be, principal photography to be sort of longer than 200 days, Because from after the Lord of the Rings and then working with Peter on Kong and King Kong, and then I suppose I'm used to working on movies of that length, and they do take a particular kind of stamina, and you know that you're not going to get out there quickly, but they're always amazing life experiences. I mean, I've now had, I think I've had 7 birthdays down in New Zealand now, and so. Technically, I'm only 7, and but it really is, it really is an extraordinary kind of thing to go in. But at the beginning of it, you're sort of like, okay, here we go. It's but then when you're working with people that you love working with in an environment which is as creative and everyone is like 150% into the project. It's not difficult, and it's such an amazing atmosphere in New Zealand. It's so uncomplicated. It's all about the work. It's all focused on the shoot. So I mean, you go through your ups and downs and your days where you're struggling and days where you're feeling on top of it, and as any job. But it's just there is the light at the end of the tunnel is a long, long way away.
Right. I thought your work in Planet of the Apes was amazing, the motion capture, and there was a big campaign to kind of get you awards recognition. What do you think is the future for kind of awards recognition for performance capture?
I mean, it's provided a lot of debate really, and I suppose the nub of the argument is about authorship of the role.
Right.
Because in my mind, performance capture is another way of recording an actor's performance. It's a different set of cameras, and I think people are thinking more along those lines now, and it's. Exactly what we were talking about earlier. The live action actor is being shot by 35mm cameras or digital cameras,
right.
and the actor in a performance capture suit is delivering his performance and being recorded by a performance capture camera. So there is no difference in terms of acting. So then you get into the whole thing about how it's manifested on screen, and that takes a whole team of other people to bring that onto the screen, and that's true. But then that's no different to a costume designer or a makeup designer bringing an actor's performance, to life in that way. So it's not the idea being now is that performance capture is more about fidelity to the performance that is created on the set between actors and with the director, and therefore there is no difference. I think so. Acting is acting,
right? And since we're at Comic-Con, and I'm sure you've been here before. Have you had any experiences here that have really stood out to you with fans or just being on panels?
Well, yeah, I did get very severely grabbed by a young girl. I think it was during the Return of the King times, and basically she was just kind of quite overwhelmed. She'd come across the actor who played Gollum, and she put her arms around my neck and then just didn't let go and wouldn't let go, and eventually about 11 of her family were trying to pull her
That's amazing.
off. It was very sweet, and
Yeah, there are no fans like the Comic-Con.
Oh, they're amazing. No, they're fantastic. I mean, I do love coming here. It's a really awesome environment.
Are there any films or actors that really get you excited, that you geek out about, or shows?
Yeah, I mean, plenty. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I mean, probably not kind of this kind of environment, sort of, but people like Paul Thomas Anderson, the film director, Paul Thomas Anderson, all the crew, all his actors, his team of actors, I think his films are incredible, and I geek out about them, definitely. But they're a slightly different fare, really. Yeah, I mean, it's just great coming down here. You always meet very, very interesting, creative people. So